Hello, everybody, and welcome to Badgerpod Nerdcast number 41, Red versus Blue. I'm your host, Brian Martinez, and I am joined by all of your favorite Badger hosts and their allies. I'm just going to go quickly around. We're not doing the introductions until people start getting mad that we aren't doing the introductions. So, I'm Brian Martinez, and I'm joined by Allison Tiemann, or Timon if you feel like mispronouncing, Mad Cat, Mike, Anna Cherry, the timing on that, and Penina, the Secret Badger. Before we get right into the main topic, which is Red versus Blue, the popular Rooster Teeth show that uses Halo graphics and shit. We're going to look at the Nerdcast Mailbag Badger thing that Allison has. So, Allison.
Yes, okay, I got it. I got it from here.
All right, need to create a long, forgettable string of nouns to use for the mailbag as well.
The male badger bag, the female bag.
No, it's like...
The baby bag.
Okay, do it, nouns. Nouns, you're saying. That's sort of a difficult... Like, adjectives we could probably manage, but nouns?
Oh, yeah.
Go nuts. Throw in a verb, why not?
Go balls.
As part of a balanced diet.
Okay.
Can I use a preposition?
Well, we can just... Yeah. Bear Grylls. Grills. Jesus Christ. No, okay. This one is terrible. It's Bear, and then it's Grylls. Grills. Yeah, you're probably right. It is Grills. Bear Grylls writes, just aired this year, Season 2 of The Island. I just binged it, and my goodness, the differences between 14 men with minimal experience and 14 women with minimal experience on two separate but equal islands was astounding. I believe this is a suggestion for the Nerdcast. So what do you guys think? Should we do The Island?
Is that the one where they had like all the women on one island and the men on the other, and they're supposed to build a shelter and all that stuff?
Yes.
Is that the idea?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, I saw that. That was awesome.
But okay. I mean, it could be interesting.
Yeah, and well, definitely, probably is interesting. I'm not sure if we're gonna do it anytime soon. I mean, it might be more of a main show conversation rather than a Badgerpod Nerdcast conversation.
I think that could be a good main show conversation.
Yeah. I think I'll bump this to the main show queue in terms of topic.
Because it's about male and female cooperation in a lot of ways, right? Or at least
or the absence thereof. Apparently, the women weren't very cooperative. I think the main thing that happened was the men sort of just did stuff separately, but then coordinated to do stuff together as well, whereas the women just sort of waited for someone to do stuff for them. But I could be wrong about that. I don't know. Anyway, the next one is from AM. Silver Bullet. Hi guys, I have a subject for a potential Nerdcast. Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. Don't know what that is? yeah, I do know what that is, actually. The Discworld is a world flat as a geological pizza, which rests on the backs of 4 elephants, which rest on the back of a 10,000-mile-long star turtle, the great Atun, as it swims endlessly through space. It has all the requisites for high fantasy: elves, wizards, quests, demons, magic swords, and barbarian warriors, but none of them are doing business as usual. It started as a parody of sword and sorcery, especially bad sword and sorcery, but has become much more Dickinsonian as the series progressed. As an Englishman, Mike the Randomer Cam will probably have heard of it. Sadly, Terry passed away earlier this year from early onset Alzheimer's. Oh yes, his daughter Rihanna is one of the devs behind the reboot of Tomb Raider. He also gives the name Rambam3000 on YouTube, the writer of this letter. He specifically mentioned you, Mike, so do you want to chime in on that? I do actually know.
I think we're all familiar with the Discworld series, are we not?
Oh, yeah.
At least pictorially,
Yeah, but definitely also, in terms of...
There's a couple of point-and-click games on...
I believe one had Eric Idle in it.
Yeah, I played the one with Eric Idle in it, actually.
There's a movie as well, I believe. At least one.
A movie, you said?
I believe so. Yeah, it was had Rincewind and everything in it.
Yeah, no, she's right. She's right. It's but I vaguely remember it.
We could talk about Good Omens if we're going to talk about Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, that's true, and Neil Gaiman. So you get sort of a 2-for-1 there. But I think this would be a great topic of discussion. What about? I mean, let's have the Brit weigh in on that, though. Do you think it would be a good idea, Mike?
I'm being microaggressed. No, we do something about Terry Pratchett, at least. Terry Pratchett should get his own show, shouldn't he?
Yeah. Oh, you mean not, and then not with Neil Gaiman. Like, Neil Gaiman would have to be a separate show.
I don't know much about Neil Gaiman. I don't know much about Terry Pratchett either, to be honest. He's still an author. He still writes books, and I don't really read books. But I have even read a Terry Pratchett book.
Which one? Which one did you read?
I forget what it was called.
Oh, this is a scintillating conversation.
Mm.
It was the one that had words in it.
The one that had words in it. Oh, you mean like what we're trying to put in front of the Badgerpod mailbag? The words.
Those were just nouns, though.
No, but just nouns. No. He's Mike said that we could also use
It's a
verbs.
free-for-all now.
and then also
Use all of the words.
all of them.
All of them.
It'll just be spaghetti.
Like
All
what's
right.
happening now.
Yeah, basically.
Then let there be spaghetti.
But you're oppressing the adjectives then.
Oh, screw the adjectives.
Blessed are the adjectives, for they shall inherit the earth.
But aren't the adjectives the ones you're supposed to destroy relentlessly because they weaken
I
the
believe
structure?
that's adverbs.
Oh, adverbs.
They
Okay,
end in
adverbs.
ly.
Yeah, because they weaken the structure of a healthy sentence.
Yeah, it's bullshit, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the next letter is from Mim Headroom. All right, Badger guys. So I heard on one of your recent podcasts that you were talking about Canadian comedies. I think you went and overlooked one of the greatest comedies to have ever come out of Canada called Todd and the Book of Pure Evil. This series told an episodic tale of a bunch of high school students trying to track down a satanic book, which acts like an evil genie that grants wishes that are incredibly warped, with some episodes using social issues to field subject matter before adding swaths of dark humor. Take, for example, the episode where a gay kid is bullied for being gay. He then finds the book and wishes that his classmates, quote, felt how he does, unquote. This turns everyone in the class gay, much to the ire of the cheerleaders, who lose all social privileges, as the jocks don't want to get blown before school by them. I really can't do this series justice over an email, but it stars Jason Mewes, JJ from Silent Bob and Silent Bob, as a janitor who doles out half-baked life advice like, quote, if you want the chick, put her in danger, then rescue her, end quote. It was incredibly short-lived, having only 2 seasons created and not being renewed for a third in 2012, despite being critically acclaimed and loved by fans, who raised $120,000 to create an animated final episode. Personally, I believe that the series was not renewed out of fear that it may have been seen as a, quote, problematic, end quote, TV show. That would be problematic, sorry, not problematic. Problematic TV show. But I have no evidence to support this. Keep doing what you do, guys. Your work is showing people like me that we need to be more active in particular social spheres. Kind regards, Mim. Okay. So that's a very nice letter. It was a long letter, but it had paragraphs. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the paragraphs because it allows me a moment to just rest before continuing to read. So thank you for your paragraphs, Mim. And also for your suggestion. I haven't actually watched this particular show, but I don't know. We could. Well, we're definitely going to be talking about Canadian comedy next week, and I sense that Mike and I might have some disagreements over whether or not it's Canadian.
I've seen a little bit of that show.
You have?
Your Evil one, yeah. It's on Netflix, and one of my friends was praising it. It is pretty good.
It sounds like I need to watch it. It sounds different, especially given our culture today. I'm amazed that made it on there, but I guess Canada is different than America.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might say it's a different country.
Yeah.
Is it? I always wondered about that.
It is a democracy of sorts. So there you go. It's not actually a dictatorship. I know that came out from left field, but I actually had a American when I went down into Florida ask me if Canada was a democracy.
What?
I was like, yeah, well, no, we have representation in government, supposedly.
Next time someone asks if your country is a democracy when it obviously is, you have to say that it's like it's actually run by a council of mages that each practice a different school of magic.
Right.
Yeah. It's a thaumaturologically. I don't know what to call it.
It's
a magoscracy.
I'm from the house of Badgerosk. What house are you from?
I'm from the house of waffles.
Ruled by the 6 magi of the 7th circle of the 10th pillar. And see what they say to that.
Of maple syrup.
Yeah, well, I would you know what? That's a really good idea. I'm still trying to think of what that would be called. It would be like what's a good word for magic?
Thaumaturgy is a great word.
Thaumaturgy. Yeah. Thaumaturgy. Yeah, but that sounds gross. A wizardarchy. There you go. All right. Okay, Brian, you can have your show back now.
All right. Is that the last of the mailbag thingies?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I figured that we'd end on the fact that end on Canadian comedy since next week's topic is Canadian comedy. So.
We are totally going there.
Yeah, we are going there.
We are going to the.
You and Canucks.
Yep.
So you can have your show back.
So let's get right into the topic of Red versus Blue, and for that I will hand the floor over to Mad Cat, who has done a little write-up on it. And yeah, well, let's do this. Mad
I
Cat.
must say the floor is a little dusty.
Well, you know, it's been a while since I dusted for Prince.
The fingerprints?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Someone got it. All right. In a time where Hollywood is recycling old stories for the billionth time, our last hope of original stories falls to machinima. Machinima is the use of real-time computer graphic engines to create a cinematic production, and none more famous than Red vs. Blue. What started as a discussion of whether or not the warthog looked like a puma soon evolved into what was thought to be 8 quick episodes, evolved into 13 seasons with 258 episodes and 5 miniseries, all about soldiers that are red and blue that are supposed to kill each other but mostly do nothing. However, the history started with Bernie Burns, Matt Holland, Jeffrey Ramsey, Gustavo Sorolla, Dan Godwin, and Jason Saldanha. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, so I apologize. A website where they got drunk and did game reviews. The company would then be called Rooster Teeth, which was a euphemism for cockbite, which was said a lot during the first season. Not much can really be said for Red vs. Blue that won't be discussed on this show today, but I will note that it was an instant success and it was supported by Bungie to the point that the creators of the Halo included guest spots of the characters in their game. More than that, Microsoft had commissioned the characters for their gaming stores and development conferences. They were used by the Bare Naked Ladies for their conferences, or their concerts, and Red vs. Blue was so much of an impact that Halo 2 designers inserted a special command into the joystick just to make it easier for Rooster Teeth to film. Even had Ed Roberts of the Bare Naked Ladies voice Captain Butch Flowers and Elijah Wood for the voice of Sigma of Fragment AI. While originally it was just a comedy, by Season 6 they introduced more serious storyline and made some big reveals. Since then, every season has had a big reveal and epic battles, with Church being the alpha AI, and based on the director himself, to Carolina likely being the love child of Tex and Church, the epic showdown of the Reds and Blues against the army of freelancer robots based on text. Lastly, to a war over a planet that no one cares about against a superior force that they managed to outwit, who now comes back for blood. Just when you think there's nothing left, nowhere to go for this series, they keep raising the stakes and making it bigger and better than before. This is why I'm obsessed with Red versus Blue. I'm done. Go on and talk.
I know that Panina had watched the show, but she may not have the ability to let us know that she wants to say something. So I wanted to open the floor for her. So
Yes.
you wanted to say.
Just to give a little background on my experience with Red versus Blue, I remember being in my senior year of high school, and I'm probably getting former teachers in trouble with this, but, I graduated, I don't care. I was introduced to the series around episode 21 of the first season, and I backtracked from there. This is even before YouTube was really a thing, and they had their own little portal, and I remember going in and checking out the episodes. Eventually, when I got a job at GameStop, this is when the DVDs when Rooster Teeth decided to start doing DVDs for their Red vs. Blue series. I remember sticking those suckers in, this is up to season 5, and just playing those things over and over again. For whatever reason, the jokes, the dialogue, none of it got old for me, and it still isn't old. I've rewatched the series at least 3 times now, like going from episode 1 all the way up to current. And it boggles my mind when I tell people about Red vs. Blue, how for Bernie Burns and the crew to sit basically in their garage, I figuratively, sitting in their garage, puppeteering these Halo characters and making something that the community loves even, oh God, what is it, 10 years, 11, 12 years later, and is still growing. Other productions, other things that they've moved on to, such as the Let's Play and Achievement Hunter series. And the idea that something so small and significant at the time could become a cultural icon. There's probably no comic store, game store, geek convention, anything that you could go to and mention Red versus Blue without somebody's eyes lighting up and going, "Yeah, totally, man." I'm sorry, I'm going to stop my out right now, and I'll pick it up when somebody else talks.
Go ahead, Mad Cat.
Well, I actually came to Red vs. Blue a little late. I really didn't know about the series until like the beginning of season 4. I'm not exactly what you call very hip. And I just instantly fell in love with it. And especially with it, like you can see almost every single episode of it, at least the first 5 seasons, on YouTube for free. I've probably watched the first 5 seasons probably like 6 times over. And then with the introduction of like season 6, and I remember during that time when, season 6 was about to roll out and they kept saying that it was going to be completely different and they're going to take a more serious approach to it. And I was seriously worried. It's like, oh my God, I want to see the old characters, I don't want to see anything new. And to my surprise, they were able to still make it pretty serious, but still very funny at the same time. And the complete drop of the origins of Church himself, that he's actually an AI and not a ghost, which actually makes more sense, but I was completely convinced he was a ghost. And just every season after that has just, like I said, been bigger and better. Though my favorite has been season 9 and 10 when they did the Freelancer story and were like showing epic battles, which was not possible in Halo before. And it's just amazing, especially the fight between the Meta versus Tex and Washington.
Well, with even something like that, I think what really kind of pushed the idea of how much something can grow is the community collaboration that took place to make Red versus Blue possible. Coming into season 6, 7, and onward, even now, when they introduced the late Monteum's animation styles, who originally started the, I don't know if he did anything before, but what was the final, it was the Final Fantasy Dead or Alive fight crossovers. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's what Monteum got famous for. At least that's what I remember him being famous for. And to see that same style implemented into Red versus Blue, and then later on to do Ruby, which is another topic entirely. And I agree with you to that they've developed the story as they've gone to change Church from just being a guy to a dead guy to a ghost inhabiting a robot's body to being an advanced fragment AI and so on and so forth. As you progress through the story, you can start to see where there's some continuity issues, because I'm sure that they were at some point just making the story up on the fly as they go, but then actually starting to put thought into it of the direction they want to go on, how they can make the story better.
I can actually answer that.
Okay, go ahead.
With the first season, they were just going episode to episode, and then by season 2, they started kind of planning out, but still kind of going episode to episode. By season 3, they were planning every episode, the whole season in advance. But
okay,
even then, they took a completely different direction in season 6.
Right. So yeah, that's where you would start seeing some of the continuity issues going, at least from season 1 and partial season 2 onward. But everything since then kind of has been a gradual, smoother ride.
I do want to make a final comment before I silence myself for a little bit. The thing is, with Hollywood today, everything seems to be focused on the special effects, the CGI, and everything, and less concern about what the end-all story is going to be. And with Red versus Blue, it's just like it is nothing but CGI, and they're trying to build a story on top of that, and they're able to give us everything we could possibly want. And I also want to say, because someone asked me to mention this, that you spoke about Monteum, and unfortunately he died earlier this year. You know, God rest his soul, but he was truly amazing in what he did for Red versus Blue. So I'll be quiet now.
Okay, yeah, I'll give the floor to someone else. There's other things I want to talk about on this, but I'll give the floor to someone else for right now.
Anna, Cherry.
Yeah.
There you are.
I am a huge, massive, insane Halo fan. I'm really happy that they gave it over to 343 Industries, because I felt like Bungie was sort of ruining it at the end of ODST and the Reach. They were kind of not really doing anything new, just rehashing the same thing, and I'm really happy with what 343 Industries did for it, so that's a side note. But to me, Red versus Blue was the beginning of machinima, the first thing that I saw and was like, holy crap, you can make animation out of video game engines. This is incredible. So the concept of machinima altogether was given to me by Red versus Blue in a way. And actually, I've subscribed to Machinima ETC channel on YouTube, which is a lot of fun. Has nothing really to do with what we're talking about, but I watched it on Netflix. So I guess I've seen season 1 through 5. So I haven't actually watched it for a long time after I found out about it, and once I did watch it, it was utterly ridiculous and hilarious in a sense that, like, what is it, the one, Robot Chicken, yeah, it reminds me a lot of Robot Chicken in terms of its content, and it's utterly funny and ridiculous, and I wasn't exactly my humor 100% of the way, but a lot of the things they were doing were brilliant in the sense that the very basic conflict of red versus blue, and the fact that they're both pretty much the exact same group of idiots who have no idea what they're doing. And that they kind of are given these orders from high on up, and it doesn't relate to their lives. It's just some agenda that some other people want. And it kind of totally reminded me of some of the things that were happening in World War II and other wars when soldiers would actually stop fighting to come out on Christmas and have a peacetime with each other, because war is a terrible thing. And a lot of times it is for profiteering of people that are other than the soldiers, and the soldiers just go out and die, and they have no control over pretty much anything, and they're just normal people that want to hang out with each other. And I really found that beautiful on that regard, on that aspect of it, I mean. But also the fact that they were basically the exact same kind of people, and there's really no basic difference between them other than their color. And I think that points out a larger metaphor, as I don't know if you've seen there's a meme making rounds around the internet right now that has a duck that can either look like a duck or a rabbit. It's a little pencil drawing, and there's a cartoon of it, of these two groups of armies, and both have the exactly identical flag. And one says, we will not rest, and they will not see peace until they denounce their duck god and accept our rabbit god. And the other group says the exact same thing, because ultimately it's the same thing. And I found the larger metaphors more interesting in Red versus Blue, more than the silly humor that they had between them. But I've only gotten to, of course, to season 5, so there might be more development that I haven't caught up on yet. But yeah, it was the thing that opened my eyes to machinima as a concept. So yeah, it was pretty cool in that regard for me.
Nice. Mad Cat, did you want to say something?
I always want to say something. Anna, I definitely encourage you to check out beyond season 5, especially with season 6 and 9 and 10. Because from a psychological standpoint, there's just so much nuance in there. And, I won't spoil it too much for you as far as all the nuance goes, but when you really start to sit and think about, everything that must have happened and the timeline, you begin seeing a lot more stuff there. And it always made me wonder, did they really understand the psychology behind this when they put all of this together? Or did they just stumble upon it by dumb luck? But you did talk about soldiers, and the one thing that I remember about Red versus Blue, some comments, is that those in the military really loved Red versus Blue because it really captured the aspect that much of what you do in the military is nothing. You often sit there bored, waiting for something to happen, and nothing happens, and Red versus Blue was really able to capture that. And I also want to say about soldiers as well is that Rooster Teeth had sent over a lot of DVDs and merchandise to those that were stationed in Iraq during the war. So it's really a great company they have there.
Cool. Actually, I wanted to say a couple things. First off, Anna, what you were talking about with Christmas, that was World War I believe. There was a time where it was Christmas time and they were in the trenches, and one army or one side decided to reach out to the other, like the lower ranking soldiers, and they played soccer and they drank and stuff. And they went back to war like the next day. Their officers were very unhappy about that. Because, of course, once you start seeing people as human beings, it's hard to kill them like they're your enemy. And then the other thing is that I remember I actually saw Red versus Blue like the moment it came out, like when it was brand new, and Halo was brand new, and it was like it was all the rage, and everyone was playing it. And it's funny because the way it started was essentially they were lampooning the game itself by making commentary about the game in like a fourth wall kind of breaking perspective. When the first two characters in the very beginning of the very first season are saying, hey, have you ever wondered why we're here? And the guy's like talking about life and, you know, the meaning of life, and he's like, no, I mean here in this canyon. And, you know, essentially it's like, I have this red base and they have this blue base and we're supposed to take it. And he's like, but what's the point of doing that, because we're still in this canyon? But the funny thing about it is that when you're playing the game, you know, and you're playing like the versus mode or the death match or the capture the flag or whatever, that is the point. And so, you know, it's like they know that they're in a game, and they're kind of like, I mean, they don't know that it's a game, but they know that the situation they're in is a bit on the, it's very ludicrous when you sit back and think about it, and they're making comments on it. And then there's other things, you know, like at least early on, when I think when they were just sort of lampooning the game as a system by itself, lampooning the idea of multiplayer. But I wonder, because I like to think about what went through the heads of the creators, or what through the minds of the team that was making something, when it grew into something bigger, and they had to find a way to basically keep it growing and keep it interesting. And they couldn't have known that it was going to last as long as it did, and that it was going to go into, you know, to this point where essentially Microsoft was backing them, and they were using like the latest models from the newest version of Halo, you know, and even like getting models most likely that they were specifically using only for their show. So before it got to the point where we're looking at, you know, alien weaponry and like true warriors and all of that, and trigger warnings, they had to have been like trying to figure out how they would have gotten there. And I like to think about how it built. And it seems to me that it was one of those things where they started off like, we're just going to parody this because, you know, while Halo is a lot of fun to play when you really think about it, it's a bit ridiculous in the context of the game itself. And we'll make fun of, you know, how weapons work, how vehicles work, what they call things, you know, and so on. And after a while, they couldn't have continued to do that because it wouldn't last. You can't do 13 episodes of that, really. So they had to start weaving in a real story, and people started getting attached to the characters, and they had to, like, you know, develop them and change them. And I think that adaptability, that's like, that ability to continue to do that is sort of, it takes a real creative team that's willing to adapt, and it's very challenging to do. And I think that's something that I admire, is just so on the creative end, just on the people behind the curtain. You know, that's what I think about. So, Matt, you can talk. I'm done.
Well, talking about what you're saying there about the evolution from just being random crap to an actual storyline, I do know that when they started to film Red vs. Blue, they kind of like wrote down a list of all the ideas they wanted to do, and they thought it would take them 8 episodes to do it. But to actually sit there and to actually do it, they then realized it became like 20 episodes. But they didn't really expect it to take off, and they also expected Bungie to come at them and say, well, you can't do this, this is our intellectual property, and blah, 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 blah. So they were just not really expecting that. But I think one element that I thought was very interesting with Season 5 of Red vs. Blue was the character of Sister. And I had a friend who identifies herself as a feminist, and I showed her pretty much all the way up to Season 12 of Red vs. Blue, and the one character she really didn't like was Sister, on how she was portrayed. And I was like perplexed by this. It's like she's basically the combination of Caboose and Tucker put together. She is highly, highly sexual to the point of being a slut, and very, very stupid. And she's like, I just don't like the way they, make her out to be. And I'm like, she's no different than any of the others. And I've always wondered if it was this kind of reaction that Rooster Teeth got, that they never showed that character again except for one episode in Season 6. Because since then, every single female character has been somehow superior than the Reds and the Blues, and only a few of them have actually been evil. but even then they weren't really flawed like the Reds and the Blues. And I wanted to throw that out to you, Panina and Cherry.
I was just going to say, like, one of the things that I got a little eye-rolly about was the character of Tex, who was just like the absolute, complete, and utter badass, and smarter than everyone, and better than everyone. And I was just like, I just don't care about you. And, you know, it just, I mean, there were some cool scenes and everything, like fight scenes and stuff, but there was something so dull about that. And I think that attitude, it's just really unfortunate, because you can't have a lot of fun when you have these kinds of reactions. Although, at least in the season 13, I don't remember her name, but there was a character who was also female that was like one of these like extra bubbly, like, you know, everybody keep your voices down. Like she was. Are you
talking about that new
Dr.
doctor?
The
Yes.
doctor, yes.
Dr. Gray.
Yes, that's right. I didn't mind her so much though, but yeah, I mean that was a prevailing thing that I saw. But what's really unfortunate though is that this is not limited to this. This is actually pretty common in a lot of different, you know, story medium, entertainment media, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and let Panina say whatever you wanted to say about that.
Following up, there's two things I wanted to follow up first. In regards to Rooster Teeth having connections with doing the things that they do for soldiers and veterans, and some of the cast, I know that I know at least Jeff Ramsey is. He's a vet himself, so that it makes a little bit more sense. A lot of some of the cast are former military, and it actually is not all that surprising that a lot of Army military soldiers relate to Red versus Blue, and subsequently Halo as a series as well. So that's just the small piece I wanted to say on that. Following up with Brian and Tex, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I understand where you're coming from, Brian, on Tex, but I don't necessarily take issue so much with her, with Tex. And I understand, I kind of, after a while, did get annoyed with Sister, but I did like her as a character because there are women who act like that. My biggest question would be her competency level in joining the Army, but I guess you could ask that about, you know, more than half of the main cast, being that once we get into the freelancer territory, show themselves to be more competent soldiers than the Reds and the Blues. But I'm trying not to give away too much plot point. I'm trying to think, did I have a problem with anybody in particular?
Well, most of them are just...
O'Malley got a little obnoxious, but I think that's just part of his character.
Yeah.
But I just because of how well everyone works together, plays off of each other's strengths and weaknesses. Sister did kind of come in like late into the series. I mean, late, we're talking about 4 seasons later after the cast has been established, and then she didn't see that would be my only problem with her, not so much her attitude, but how much did she actually add to moving forward? Because everyone else going from season 6 on added something to the story, added something to the plot, added some kind of dynamic that even some of the newer cast members have continued to proceed up until season 13 here. So, there's something else I want to ask later, but I'll let Cherry speak if she wants to.
Cherry, do you want to say anything about what we were talking about? And silence. I hope that there's nothing wrong with her thing. But
the only reason why I called out Cherry is, like I said, I'm limited in my access right now, so I'm basically counting on audio cues to follow along.
Yeah.
But I guess while we're waiting, if anybody else wants to say anything, I did want to ask, since we're talking about characters' likes and dislikes, I wanted to throw it out there to the panel for those who are familiar with the series or those who might not be but know a little something. Who would be your favorite character of the series so far? It doesn't have to be since season 1. It could be someone new. Who is your favorite character?
Well, I would like to add to that, which side do you prefer to be on? Not just who your favorite character is, are you a red or a blue? And if you don't mind, I'll go first on that question.
First, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I definitely favor the blues. I tend to like them more than I do like the reds. My favorite character actually has to be Washington. I don't know. I feel like I can relate to Washington a lot more. He's a good, strong leader, but as good as he is, he has difficulty in getting people to do what needs to be done, especially when dealing with the Reds and the Blues. But it's also interesting that back when he was a freelancer, he was kind of like the Reds and the Blues compared to everyone else. And then Church would have to be a very close second. I just absolutely love Church and what Bernie Burns does with that character. I've just always loved his foul-mouthedness. And when Alpha died in season 6, it kind of made me sad. And it took us a few seasons to get Epsilon, so sorry for spoilers there, but it's 13 seasons, so come on. So I was so happy to have Church back because he's just like the absolutely best character in my opinion. One person from the Reds I like is Simmons. So.
Oh, Simmons, no. Simmons, I'm sure, would be a great guy on his own. However, I cannot get past the ass kissing. I can't. As much as he would probably just be a good guy to talk to one-on-one, it's like the second that Sarge walks in, everything stops, and the lips to cheek resumes. Oh.
Well, I think Griff also pushes his buttons a lot too, which holds him back.
Of course he does. To answer my own question, I think I'd have to be on the Blues side too. Pretty much because someone like Simmons and Sarge would drive me away from the Reds. I would just de facto switch right then and there if I had to deal with it for more than a few days. I love Church as well, but he's not my favorite. And being that Church seems to be the tie, he seems to be the main protagonist of the entire series in all of his carnations. So I don't know who would watch the series and not like Church. As for character, I'm torn between Tucker and Caboose. And Caboose, just because he has his silly little quips, but when you think about it for a moment, I think this was touched up on by a freelance soldier, like later on in like season 11 or 12. He just has his moments where if you think of it philosophically, it has a deeper meaning. And I mean, Tucker is just one of the guys you can have a conversation with. He himself has a few developing moments throughout the series, and you can start to understand his psyche a little bit more as you go. He and Church seem to have the more relatable plots to deal with.
Yeah. Is that all, Anita? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that you didn't have anything else to say. I think it's well, I mean, from what I've seen, it just seems to me that the Blues have more going on, like that's just more in depth in terms of the story. So I don't think it's too much of a wonder why people tend to prefer them, and I do too. They have like, how did Sarge put it? Nerdy shit going on. So they got more nerdy shit going on. So I think that's why we probably gravitate towards them. So I like the Blue story more too. So I will side with them. As far as favorite characters goes, I didn't get a chance to watch everything, but from what I've seen, I do like Caboose a lot because he is just fucking funny to me. I mean, I have armor. It's blue. You know, I mean, it's just like he's so straightforward. I like Sarge too, though. Even though he's not a blue, I like him. He's funny as well. He reminds me of Boz from the show that shall not be named. So there's something about that I like. He's such a simple man. And then, see, the third character is a bit tough. I like Washington, because he was a good character that was strong, capable, but also, you know, there was room for humor, and he was actually kind of a moron too. But I also like the medic guy. I forget his name though.
Doc.
Doc.
Yeah. Yes. He's also pretty good. So it's they were pretty good. Those are some of my favorites. Yeah, I'm sure that there's other ones, and I think that they're getting better. There's more variety and characterization. Like, who's the one on the newest season? He's got an English accent, and he's like super proper.
Oh
Doyle?
God, the leader of the yeah.
What is it?
Doyle.
His name is Doyle.
Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty funny. I like him too. So, but yeah, so that's where I would sit with that. Cherry?
All right. Definitely honorable mention to Sarge. He is hilarious to me in a way that very simple-minded, like almost redneck army guy. He's just such a great caricature of. I don't mean to insult or anything. He's fantastic caricature of that, you know, warrior archetype of simple, good, man who also goes a little overboard in the ways because he has to protect people, and that's like his role as a leader. But he's freaking hilarious. Honorable mention is Sergeant Caboose. I would have to say Tex is my least favorite character because I'm just so freaking sick and tired of the female mommy type that comes in and orders everyone around into the right places and tells them what to do, and she's the only competent one out of all the idiot men, and I'm just so freaking tired of that meme. I just, please, the trope, can it just go away and die already?
And
Sure,
that's such a godsend.
Right, I completely understand. However, Cherry, I don't know, maybe I'm, like, I could just be having a severe brain fart, and I do apologize. I'm not taking anything over. I don't have the same problem with Tex. I'm sorry. I know the meme's there. I know the trope is there. She is the badass, can do no wrong. She can't.
Mary Sue, yeah.
Fail. She is a Mary Sue, but she is one of the few Mary Sues I like. I don't know why.
I respect that. I do have a few Mary Sues I appreciate too, that I've cosplayed them as well. So we can disagree and agree on that regard for sure.
I actually agree with you, Anna, but the thing about Tex that I like is her interaction with Church.
Let Cherry finish though. Let's let her finish.
Thank you. I've not much left to say, but I guess the only favorite character that I can safely say is favorite is Donut. I love Donut so much. And it really broke my heart in the episode, season 5, I think it was, where he got overtaken by the evil entity, and but that whole transition from being the silly, ridiculous donut to being taken over by this malicious force and having his voice changed and all that was particularly funny to me. So I don't know if I can have 3 favorite characters, but with Donut and the 2 honorable mentions to Sergeant Caboose, I think that's 3. And I guess the favorite episode or story arc would be the AI taking over of the devil taking over the AI of the guys. That's it.
I forgot about Donut. That is a good character. Very funny.
Everybody forgets Donut.
Could you pick up some elbow grease and some headlight fluid on the way to the store?
Okay, Matt K, you were talking about text. I wanted to let you finish. I just didn't want to, because when there's crosstalk, it's hard to hear.
No,
But
I
you
understand,
finished your
and
answer.
I pretty much said what I wanted to say about Tex on that. I just liked her interaction with Church.
Basically, when
Yes.
Tex is in the scenes with Church, it makes Tex a better character.
I think so. I really love the part where they're in Caboose's mind, and they come up to Omega or O'Malley, and Church says, "Stop right there. Now the only person to ever make my girlfriend bitchy and crazy is me." And she's like, "Oh, Church, that's so sweet." He's like, "Shut up, bitch, asshole."
I think the reason why I like Tex, then I think I can actually figure out what I like about Tex is because she plays off of Church, and Church gives her a vulnerability and gives her relatability. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think that's what it is that I like about her character. She is not all for herself, and we find out later in the series there is a reason she does things that she does.
And now that you guys bring up Church, I definitely remember a bit more of why she wasn't as awful. It's just the trope that I'm more concerned with.
Right. So
There is one more thing I wanted to say. It is possible, and that's something I've considered as I watch, especially when I was watching seasons 9 through 13 today in preparation for the show, because I watched the early stuff way back when it was brand fucking new, but I have missed a whole lot. But one of the things I think is possible is that not only, Tex is a Mary Sue and all, and that is pretty obvious. She's like a complete badass. But I think the guys that make the show are kind of like it's like they're cognizantly aware of that, and they're making a little bit of fun of that as well. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like they're aware of it and they're trying to say this is kind of ridiculous, but they're not directly criticizing it.
Right, they're not pandering all the way, because they did say, makes her crazy and bitchy. Like, they're accurately pointing out that characters like her do have flaws, and they're not excusable, but they are excusable in the sense that we excuse anyone that we're friends with their flaws. But a lot of times, sci-fi especially, and fantasy it's really the doorway for feminism to come in, because there's so much reverence and gynocentrism to women, and they can do no wrong for real. While here, I think you're right, they definitely they didn't have her be like, "What did you call me?" They didn't have her be completely in charge of the narrative whenever they pointed out the things that she was doing wrong. So that is cool too. I think you're right.
I think they give homage where it is due in regards to pointing, not.
Panina's breaking
I
up.
think they do. I'm sorry?
Oh, you were breaking up on my end, but maybe you didn't. Maybe you're not.
How am I now?
You're fine.
Okay, awesome. I think that I think I agree with you, Brian. I think they understand these tropes and, hint at it, but also understand and respect them and show another side of it when they get the opportunity. I don't remember what season it was in. It was in one of the more recent ones during the Freelancer arc, where they showed the twins, the brother and sister, and how the sister just kind of goes off her nut, just becomes overcome with jealous and anger, and trying to outdo her peers, whereas the brother takes a more calm and of where, you know what I'm talking about?
We just actually missed everything you said
You
about.
were saying the brother was taking a
Dakota.
more calm, a calmer path, but you didn't. But then we lost you. The audio dropped right after that.
Oh shoot! Conspiracy. Okay, no, but you got to see the transformation of how the sister goes from like very competitive and jealous and anger, and I don't think there was a definite conclusion. I'm just guessing that neither of them survived, but you got to see this character transform, this female character transform from what she started off as, what she was introduced as, to needing to be a problem needing to be dealt with, in a way. And I think the creators, I think when they can, they try to show, in the context of the characters they've already established, what a person can go through and how that mentality kind of deals with it, with the events that unfold.
All right. Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think it's like there is an awareness, a self-awareness. You know, I mean, like Sarge he's a gag, you know, on like the typical soldier, American soldier, from Texas and stuff. So it's probably possible that, you know, that this is also that, and they're smarter than we think. But let's give well, we want to talk about the trigger warning episode of the public service announcement. So I don't know who can best sum that up. I think Mad Cat can.
Well, thank you, Brian. Basically, it's about Doc wanting to make trigger warnings so people can know whether or not they should view something, and Griff is being entirely dismissive of it, saying that it insults people's intelligence, and people already know that what the show is. They're assholes. That's all they've ever been. So by this point, you know exactly what you're getting with Red versus Blue. I do love the humor of it, though, and that they weren't directly attacking people for having trigger warnings, but they were saying that some of the trigger warnings can be a little bit ridiculous. And I do love how they snuck in the word cunts in there. That was brilliant.
Yeah. And rapes.
And donut being the sound of reason.
I looked at that episode today, and I'm glad that more of these sort of like mainstream entertainment sources are poking fun at trigger warning stuff, because I've seen that in other mediums too, and that's good only in that the real way to deal with something that causes you discomfort is to realize that there has to be a point at which, you know, you have to build a tolerance to something that you're not entirely comfortable with. That's the only way that's going to work. Like there's like a line between what some, you know, a level of rudeness that other people should be putting forward, and then what another person is willing to tolerate. And it's getting pretty ridiculous with people using their lack of ability to tolerate as a method for bullying people, if they even remotely make them uncomfortable. So, and I think that a lot of these people who create content that work really hard and all that, they bite back, and this is you know, they even if they do it in a sensible way. But I did notice I had to read the comments section because I had to know if there were people who were not okay with this episode, and of course there were. There were people who were saying, "Oh, this is disgusting." They're making light of, you know, trigger warnings. This is PTSD stuff. This is really serious. You guys can't make fun of this. You know, blah blah blah. But then again, it's one of these like, well, you know what kind of entertainment they do. You know what kind of show this is. Why are you here telling them how they should change to essentially to suit your preferences? This is it's a different form of bullying. You may find what they do is bullying, but you know, you're bullying them, and like but you have the choice. You have the choice to not experience the content if it's really that serious. But I'm sorry, but the world just isn't a fucking padded cell, you know? Like there's shit in it that's not comfortable. So I'm glad they made it, and I did get some laughs out of it, and I like the acronyms. That bit was pretty funny. So yeah.
All right, is it time?
Unless anyone else saw the trigger warning thing and had a comment about it, then yeah, I guess. Or if you have any final thoughts. Triggers for me. That's what I'm saying.
I will end by saying I really, really, really love Red versus Blue, if it's not been obvious so far.
Tell us what you guys think about the show, and if you have favorite characters and episodes and arcs, and the way that the show has evolved. Those of you who are listening, if you have any thoughts on that, please don't hesitate to put a message in the comments or send us an email. Okay, Allison, I'm giving it to you now.
Well, I think Madcap, did he get to shill Gigi and Phoenix?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Madcap.
Sorry, I was typing in chat. We're having a discussion about whether or not North is actually dead. Yes, so Gamergate in Phoenix, we're going to be doing it on August 29th. Contact me if you want to know the location. I'm just making sure everyone is legit first so we don't get like what happened in DC and what happened in Atlanta. But we do have a location set. I've squared it away with the owners, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So just either tag me directly, GGMAD_CAT, or just use the hashtag GGInPHX, and I will find you.
Okay, thanks for that, Mad Cat. And if you enjoy the content of the show, it exists and continues to exist via the very, very generous support of our listeners. So if you want to become a patron, if you want a long-term relationship with us with plenty of commitment, consider becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. Or you can give a one-time donation at honeybadgers, plural, honeybadgersradio@gmail.com. All contributions are greatly appreciated and ensure that this platform continues in perpetuity and expands. So you are very important, and your investment in us is very important to make sure that this doesn't just disappear one day. So take it away, Brian.
Okay. So yes, definitely check us out on all of the social media / Patreon stuff if you like the show. And if you can, and you're close to Phoenix, try to get out to the hangout. I went to one in Chicago. Nothing untoward occurred, at least not from a way that I wouldn't have wanted. And it was a good time. So I think that the more of these gatherings we have and the more of these conversations we have, the more we can grow a community and have these open kinds of discussions and enjoy our nerdy interests without totalitarian. And that's it.
Can I show for
Yes.
1 sec?
Go ahead.
All right. Since Kat got to do his, I'm helping organize a GG in FL or a GG in Miami as well, which also is scheduled to take place on the same day as Airplay. And we've reached out to some of the panelists who are going, if they want to join us afterwards. So if anybody wants any details, please give me send me a message or send me a tweet on Twitter at cpenina, and I will get you the information about where we're having it and what times they're going to start. We're planning on doing a beach barbecue kind of hangout first, and then meeting out at a beer hall afterwards to allow the Airplay panelists to come and join us. So, yeah, that's it.
All right. Okay, so yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. So other than I will hopefully see your beautiful faces again tomorrow.
Become a Patreon and help us create some decent Canadian comedy.
Yes.
You're.
Tune in next week, everyone. It's going to be great.
Oh my God.